Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who has joined so far. And I'm going to be your host today along with Zohar. And the topic for this webinar today is going to be peek inside Autodesk AI first visual testing workflow. And I'm very excited to have Zohar along with me for this webinar. Before I move ahead, a quick housekeeping items that you should just make a quick note about. The session is going to run for 60 minutes. And the session is going to be recorded. You will get the recording link towards the end of the session, so you need not worry about that. And all the participants will be muted to engage without interruptions. You will be able to post any questions or queries that you may have in the chat window below. And our team from BrowserStack, as well as both Zohar and I, will also be attending to those questions towards the end of the session. But feel free to post those questions so that to get a response on your questions along the way itself. Right. So I think, yeah, we'll get started with the session. My name is Ankur Kumar, and I work as a group product manager with BrowserStack. I've been with BrowserStack for close to 3 years, and I had visual testing products for the company. Overall, I have around 15 years of work experience, 10 years into product management, and around 5 years into software development. Excited to have Zohar from Autodesk today. Zohar, over to you for a quick introduction.
Thank you. Good to be here, Ankur. Good to see everybody's joining from different parts of the world. So it's pretty cool. I'm Zohar. I'm Director of Engineering at Autodesk. I've been with Autodesk for over a decade now. We've been working on the construction side. We'll tell you a little bit about the company and kind of where that fits. And many years of experience on software development specifically. And years ago, brought the whole concept of visual testing into our division. So it's kind of great to partner up with Ankur and BrowserStack and see how we can give back to the industry and teach more of the folks that are looking into it now.
Thank you, Zohar. Yeah. I think so. The agenda for the session today is very simple and clear. Like we'll start with understanding what Autodesk do, what are the services that they offer, why did Autodesk start doing visual testing in first place, and why did they choose Percy to start their visual testing journey, and how is AI helping Autodesk in improving their visual testing overall? What's the benefit that they're getting and seeing from the new gen AI offerings that are right now quite prominent for most of the SaaS tools out there in the market. And then we will also show you things in action. We'll show you how AI in Percy is improving the life of visual testers and how it is bringing the transformational shift of around how visual testing has been done so far, and what's the pre-AI and post-AI kind of an experience that you're seeing right now. And then take up Q&A towards the end, right? Before we delve into the questions, a quick trivia for you all. So I have two images right now in front of you on your screen flashing up. We'll just have a quick poll on understanding from the attendees for this session that what are the count of visual differences that you are seeing across these two images. Can you just take a guess, eyeball both these images from left and right? How many changes do you see in the right side image compared to the left one? If I have to just ask you and take a quick guess, can you manually eyeball and help us understand and take a guess on how many changes are you observing? Right? This is just to see if you're able to accurately or even at close to accuracy predict and check how many visual differences exist across these two screenshots. Cool. I think if I show you the actual, I think we can end the poll, Pranav, and we will see what's the response. So these are the number of changes that you see across these two screenshots, and the actual answer is like 36. I'm not sure how many of you have gotten it right. I don't see the actual survey response popping up right now on my screen. But I hope most of you got it right. Like the answer is not the above, because the actual changes are not 2, 4, or 6, but you have 36 changes across the two screenshots. So this is just to make it in a simplified manner clear that visual testing in complex scenarios is not easy to do through manual eyeballing. It becomes cumbersome and challenging to look at your pixel differences or minute differences across different state of your production screenshots when it comes to scaling your visual testing journey, right? I'll move ahead. I think, yeah, we'll start asking Zohar and share his 2 cents and his words of wisdom on how we started with visual testing. But before that, if Zohar, you can help me understand what does Autodesk do, and for attendees to understand what's the industry that you operate in, what are the products and services that you offer to the world.
Sure. Thank you. So Autodesk is a fairly large company. We're in the Fortune 500. Autodesk essentially sits in three different divisions. So the first one is media entertainment. Most of you would probably know the Game of Thrones show or the movie Avatar, and every TV show or every movie you'll see in the cinema is most likely made by one of our software. Autodesk at large is a design and make company. So all the software that we make technology for designing things and making things. So the media entertainment that we mentioned, the second one is making products and manufacturing. So everything from hair blow dryers to Teslas and Mercedes and Ferraris, anything you see around you in the real world that's a product that's designed is both designed and simulated with our software. So when I say simulated, you could think of cars. Back in the day, you had to make an actual model and then run it through a wind tunnel to see the aerodynamic of the car. Same thing for an airplane. And today you actually don't have to make it a physical thing. You can tweak every part of it in order to get to the perfect aerodynamic that you seek. And then when you have and you simulate everything in software, and then when you get to the final product, you can then go to production. And then the third is the division that I'm in, which is the architecture, engineering, and construction. So again, everything you see around you in the real world that is essentially large construction, hospitals, airports, stadiums, big projects like that. They're all both designed and then executed by software, and that you have to run hundreds of people in the job site, and all that data, the aggregation, the reporting of it is all done via our software.
Thank you so much, Zohar. I'll just pause here for a minute and ask our attendees to help us understand if they are using any visual testing tool right now, and if they can help us understand what kind of tool are they already exposed to structure the conversation with you a little better. And feel free to answer to the survey that we are floating right now on your screens right now, folks. If you're using any of these tools already for visual testing, please participate and answer to the question. Cool. I think move forward. And uh, Zod, I think you can take me now back to those days when Autodesk thought you talked about three divisions and three teams that are largely responsible for building all the Autodesk products. You can take me to those days when Autodesk thought that now is the time to start doing visual testing, and what were the pain points that triggered you to evaluate and look at visual testing with more seriousness.
Yeah, you could think generally when you ship products, you want to make sure that you have complete confidence when you deploy your software that everything works well. So back in the day before automated testing, it was done with manual QA, you verify yourself, and then automated tests came into play. Of course, there's unit tests to your function, but you want to do end-to-end test and integration test to the actual screen. And of course, when you ship software on the web, you are all aware that you can run an integration test, a feature test that actually verifies that a certain function works. The headless browser clicks a button and it identifies that this element is on the screen as a result. But that test could come out true, but the screen does not look anything like you want it to look. So that's where visual testing comes in. You know that you could take a CSS file outside of Play, and you know your headless browser would still see everything that's there, but you wouldn't understand that anything that's on the screen because everything could be jumbled around depending on how complex your CSS is. And you want to make sure that things look consistently exactly where you want them and how you want them to look. So that's when we realized when we start seeing a few errors that we shipped, we saw a green light from our testing suite, but we saw things don't look exactly like we wanted them to look. We realized, okay, there has to be another layer here. The last layer of validation is the visual test. The visual test essentially gives you a great integration for a few things, which we'll talk about further along. But the real bottom line is the complete assurance that when you get a thumbs up, a green light from your visual test, you know that the software responds the way you want and looks the way you want. And that's what brought us to start with visual testing back in the day.
Thanks. So, if I probe a little deeper there. So before you started thinking about specialized tools, was the team like manually eyeballing visual bugs? How were you trying to contain the visual bugs?
Yeah, that was I would say that was a mix of manual and automated testing without visual. You would see that we would test that the element is on the screen, but we would incrementally test, as opposed to when you have a testing suite that actually has a visual component to it, you could test everything. And when you changed one thing and it impacted another thing, for example, in a CSS situation where you change one style that could be shared by two things, that could have impact in a place that you didn't identify. So we would manually test it, and we would identify that, oh, something moved or something changed or something doesn't look like the way we want it to look. And that's where we would then go back before going all the way to deployment.
Got it. So it was like very time consuming and not scalable and still error prone because it was all manually done.
Absolutely.
Got it. Got it. Cool. I think that helps. So if you help me understand, and for all our attendees today, Zohar, what were your core criteria for deciding that what kind of visual testing tool Autodesk would want to adopt?
Yeah, there were a few criteria. When we looked at the array of tools that was in the market at the time, we thought, okay, we got to have a spreadsheet or something to really understand how do we judge each tool and what are the criteria for it, and then how do we make a decision at the end. And I think we landed on three main things. So number one was ease of integration. So when you're an engineer or an engineering leader that has a team, you want to make sure that your engineers are productive on and focusing on the value add of the specific service that they're building, as opposed to trying to learn a whole new domain just to get a small ROI. So you want the ease of integration of that tool to your suite or to your product to be the ease to be very high, so the cost to integrate it to be very low. And that, of course, the cost in development time. That is also combined with the cost of maintaining it. So how easy it is to change and tweak things, how good the documentation is, stuff like that. So that was the number one criteria. The number two criteria is the ease of use. So how easy it is to use the tool itself, the richness of features, what does the tool offer you, how many problems it solves, and how fast is the development that happens within the tool. And of course, the community and support. So if there are problems, if there are edge cases, and you'll see in each one of you guys work in a different company, you'll see that you will push tools to the edge of their abilities, and you will soon find out that you need to have feature requests or that some tools just didn't answer specific things that are specifically to your use case. And that was very important to see that response from a company. And then the third one is, of course, cost, because there's always limited funds to how much you want to spend on each one of the tools you're using, depending on how critical it is for your pipeline. So I think those were the three ones that we identified that we want to judge the tools by.
Got it. Thanks, Zohar. So Zohar, I don't know if you did you also evaluate testing any open source tools? There are like a bunch of tools with limited capabilities like Playwright and Cypress. They do offer visual testing, but to a very limited extent. Did you ever at any point of time think of also evaluating them?
Yes, we did. We were actually running a lot of open source tools, not in visual, but in the other testing we did. The thing you have to remember is when you run an open source tool for visual testing specifically, you have to make sure you also run the infrastructure to support it. So now you're not only running a tool, you're also supporting infrastructure, and now you have another bucket of work that you need to do. So that's always the trade-off of how much it is that you want to be involved in, as opposed to narrow down your focus to your specific value add. So if you're a gaming company, you want to develop the game, not develop any other technology. Like just focus on the thing, and that's your biggest ROI. Double down on that and outsource the rest.
No, I think that's bang on. I keep hearing this from the customers who actually are using some of the common open source frameworks to do visual testing journey with them as well. And then they fail to scale it, and it precisely they hit the dead end of they're not focusing on
Exactly.
main business, but actually maintaining an open source solution which is actually not scalable, and it gives them more pain than actually relief of ensuring their quality is met.
Yeah, you basically end up wasting cycles that are very valuable to what you're supposed to do.
Sure. So I think with that as the context, so why did Autodesk choose Percy as the preferred companion partner to do visual testing?
Yeah, so if we go back to the three criteria that we talked about, we looked at number one, the documentation. So before we even turned to a company to say, hey, we're thinking of using this, or sometimes we even put out a request for proposals. In this case, we just looked at documentations of companies, and some of them were easier than others. When we looked at Percy, we saw a few things that gave us kind of a very green light or a sigh of relief. Number one, we didn't really need as much help from the BrowserStack team to get up and running and do a POC, which was great because then we can actually validate that not only the tool works, but it works within our specific service and within our specific pipeline and how it works and how easy it is to work. And then the other thing is there are things that we found out, again, pushing tools to their edge, that we said, oh, we need to ask for this specific thing. And the speed in which we got response by the BrowserStack support was very encouraging. So they responded within sometimes a week, developing or solving something that we needed for us to continue our work and not be stuck on the implementation. So that those two things, ease of integration and the ease of use with support, was great. Another thing with the ease of use is that we found kind of the richness of feature set very encouraging, because just one comparison. I saw in the list that you had over there, Applitools was one of the candidates. And Applitools, for example, back in the day took decision to do, there's pure visual, so pixel by pixel, versus DOM, where you can identify the DOM elements and you can then do smart things like ignoring them, or you can hover over them when you are actually comparing in the UI and see which DOM element exactly hits the thing you wanted. And companies that went in the pixel to pixel comparison thought that they're doing something very smart because it was kind of technologically complex. But at the end of the day, when you're the customer, the DOM path was much smarter because you got a lot of richness of features by using it. So those were two things. And then the third, as we mentioned, was cost. The scalability that BrowserStack offered in terms of running on different browsers, different machines, OSs, and as many tests as we wanted, and the speed in which we got the response, and the price or bucket, the way that they priced things made a lot more sense than other companies. So that's how we ended up going with BrowserStack and Percy.
Sure, Azor. So you talked about integration being nicely available with Percy, right? So what kind of integration were you particularly looking at? Was it like some kind of a component testing integration, or for website testing, you were looking at a visual testing support? If you can help us understand that a bit better.
Yeah. So the organization that I run is called the Construction Platform. So we build the platform in which a lot of our other services in the construction space actually build on top of. And one of them is a component library. So we build a component library using Storybook. And of course, over there, most of it is visual because the component is a very isolated unit. And having the ability to take our Storybook, integrate Percy into it, and just see all the tests instead of doing all the work of writing tests for each one of the components was almost zero added cost, but a huge gain. So that was a wonderful thing. And then, of course, taking the integration test that we were already running, and then just adding a snapshot every place we wanted to make sure to have a visual verification was, again, easy integration. You add the Percy library, and then you take snapshot here, wherever you want, and that worked out great. So very low cost to get all of the gain to us was a very great green light.
Got it. And how frequently do you do like the storybook testing with Percy? Like what's the frequency with which you would want to test your components?
Oh, we ran it on every master merge of the library is running all of the storybook tests.
Which is like almost like on a daily basis, like, or every second day you
Oh,
developers push the
multiple
code.
times a day. Yeah,
Oh, and then that, so that you are like heavily reliant on a visual testing tool in that case.
absolutely. Yes.
Got it. Um, and then you talked about also support, customer support being also one of the criteria for deciding on a visual testing tool. So what difference did you find with BrowserStack per se, particularly like in terms of support? You mentioned it like the team was quick and all, but if you can just elaborate a bit more.
Yeah, there were some companies that were not actually located in the US back in the day, and we had to kind of align with their time zone, and I was in the West Coast back at the time, so it was a little bit harder. Where BrowserStack had presence at the time in San Francisco, but I know now you're even more spread out globally. So that was number one. Number two is how the support actually provided the service. So how fast we got the answer, how big was the community to support it, how great was the documentation, and also how willing were they to make adjustments to things that we asked. Because obviously things we asked, we maybe have been the first, but we're not the only ones that need it. So the array of customers uh, would probably also benefit from it. So those were several things that really helped us kind of see, okay, we have a good partner. Any person that's on this call that is thinking about operating with a vendor in whatever field, not only testing, right, would want to make sure that you're actually partnering with them to continue a relationship that's going to be long term. And to us, that really worked well.
Got it. I think thank you so much, Zoe, for giving more context there. I think we'll now switch gears and we'll come to the elephant in the room. We'll talk about AI, and if you can help us understand, like, how is AI in per se helping Autodesk? What are the green shoots or big transformational takeaways from our AI capabilities that you are seeing in BrowserStack per se?
Yeah. In general, today everybody heard of the buzz of AI, and there are many use cases that we see that could benefit humanity in many ways. Today, in the field of testing, what we really see the huge benefit is how does it help us reduce time of developers in the testing phase, and again focusing back the developer time in what the focus of the service they're working on. So again, if you're a gaming company, you focus on the gaming and not focus on deciphering the result of a test, or even looking at tests, or looking at false positives, etc., etc. So there are three main buckets that AI is really helping us with. Number one is reducing the time that that the developers look at the test, reducing the number of false positives, and the third one is really showing quickly an explanation, because if you looked at visual tests results before AI, and you would see a side-by-side comparison, similarly to what we saw at the first slide that you ran the poll and how many differences we see, you may see a difference, or could maybe think that you identified a difference, or even the software would circle around or mark around the where the diff was. Sometimes you would have to actually look closely or zoom in and see what exactly is the difference, so you can then go back to the code to debug it. And with AI, you could just click it, and there will be an AI pop-up to tell you the difference is so and so in words. So that again reduces the time that developers have to spend deciphering test results and then going back and using that time in developing the service.
Got it. So you're saying like diff reduction is one of the things that you probably noticed from AI, and how critical is like reducing noisy diffs using AI? Like, does it matter to you?
A lot. At the end of the day, it's all time, and time is money, right? As a business, you gotta make sure that you're utilizing your resources, and your resources are the time that you have of yourself and the people you work with, and you want to make sure they're spending that time correctly. So if there is a diff in a page that is marked before AI at, let's say, 5%, but with AI can identify that, oh, these are actually not really important things, or things that are really differences. There could just be one pixel move, but not necessarily a thing that the human eye would even notice. Then having AI on would show you, oh, the difference is much lower. And then you don't need to look at the things that are not important, the false positive. You only focus on the things that you should go debug and understand why. So again, you get your time back and utilizing it to what you need, advancing a business.
Got it. And how critical is like explaining dips to and testers or reviewers in like simple English language? Because that's the kind of biggest you can say invention of Gen AI models, right? They make things simple for folks to understand. An image which might have like multiple visual diffs that are called out, I understand it can become mind-boggling for someone to decipher and understand and interpret what exactly has changed in across the two states of my screenshot. So from your experience of using AI in Percy, do you think it really adds value?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it saves time because when you think about it, there are two personas that will look at tests, right? So you either have a developer that's writing the test and looking at the results of the test, or you have a QA person that looks at the results and try to decipher them. And when you think of these two personas, the developer wants to develop, right? Developer wants everything to be green and move forward and be innovative and do things, which is totally understandable. So it's very easy when your desire is not, you wake up in the morning and you don't think as a developer, oh, what I really want to do today is look at visual diffs. What you really want to do is develop new software. So having software that kind of shows you not just the visual diff, but tells you, okay, the visual diff here is A, B, and C. You say, oh, okay, it's A, B, and C. You go back to developing, fixing it, and moving forward. And then as a QA person, your your job is to be a QA person, but as a QA person, again, don't want to do just repetitive work. And even if you like the repetitive work as a human, because you have a human mind, you are more prone to errors. You're more prone to miss things, and you're more prone to overlook things. And we saw that evidence in the first poll you ran.
Yeah.
So it's much easier when you have a computer that just tells you, hey, the difference is this, and you don't have to spend time on it.
Oh, that helps. I think we'll also now see things in action. Zohar, if I can request you to share your screen and maybe take our attendees through your experience of how you're finding these AI capabilities in Percy's environment, and probably resonate with what we just now spoke about, and see if those are the things that even our attendees can relate with, right? And see
Sure.
if those can actually add value for their day-to-day visual testing. Right. I'll just stop my screen share and I'll let you share your screen and take us through your environment. Is that okay, Zor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Let me share this. Okay. So I am opening the portal here, and you can see, so this is the list of the builds we've had. And one just off the top, you see one of the benefits, right? We have a fewer differences, so less false positives, and how much time on average the AI feature saved the team. And as you grow, the number of tests you run, the how big your suite is, and of course the number of products. So that this is for each one of the products. You can see we have several here of component libraries and products that we run a test with visual. How much time it saves for the team. So I
Yeah,
think
Zohar,
that
sorry for interruption.
yeah,
If you don't mind, can you please zoom in a bit so that it's a little larger
yeah,
viewport? Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
the better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
So I think this is really the bottom line of the help you get from AI. And then when you go into a specific build, you could see, let me move this Zoom screen quick, second. Okay. You could see that even if you look at the two graphs, right, they look very similar, but there is a difference, right? And you'll see that AI with or without AI, you'll see the same diff, and with AI, you say, well, but what is the diff? And clicking it will tell you, oh, okay, it has a subtle change in size. So then you realize, oh, it is actually slightly bigger, and it tells you in each one what is the diff. So that really helps you with saving the times. You don't need to really like zoom in, look at what exactly is the difference. The AI will tell you what the difference is. It helps you go back and fix exactly the source of the problem. So this is the second one we talked about. And then the third which I think is a huge benefit, is really false positive. So you see, without AI, you have a 7.75% diff in the chart, but when you use the AI feature, you really don't have a diff. And if you look at the two screens, make it lighter, you see that there's really no difference between them. So again, removing the false positive, I think, is a huge benefit to teams because again, saves you a lot of time, and that brings us back to this ROI piece.
Got it. Can you go back to the same snapshot once? Yeah, I can see these ROI metrics being also called out here. And that's the value add that probably Percy has offered in this particular build in terms of reducing n number of diffs, and also how much time we potentially feel we have ended up saving for the visual reviewers or testers, right? So I think these kind of false positive scenarios, you see them getting reduced, and they make the teams more productive at Autodesk.
Yeah, of course. And then again, it all comes from, if we connect it to what we talked about earlier, right? This is a charting library, so it helps a team building a charting library that the rest of the teams can then build upon using those cards, and they can compose it to build more and more sophisticated stuff for their use case. And there are, if you connect it to what we talked about before, having the DOM-based visual comparison, that really helps us with either ignoring or isolating the things that we really want to test in each one of the test runs, in each one of the stories. And then if you look at the comparison, when we do compare the inside of each chart, when we feed it the data, but we make updates to the chart itself, these are very, very small details, right? And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, of chart permutations. So it would be very, very easy to kind of look at each one of these things and say, okay, there's a difference here. What is the difference? And then spending the time of an engineer really digging into it at the end of the day to just understand, oh, okay, there's actually not much difference here. So it doesn't need to debug it. That's really quantified here in a really nice way.
Got it. And if you can go, Zohar, to your build list page, or rather project list page. Yeah. So I think you see the overall impact that AI has created across all the builds in last 30 days here. And I think if you look at in an aggregate level, the savings that you're doing in terms of the review time or the number of differences that you do not have to eyeball manually, they keep getting accumulated. So overall compounded impact of I think AI in Percy is transformational and drastic.
Yeah.
Right. So
and that goes back to the ROI, right? You spend X amount of dollars on a tool, whatever tool it is, in this case, Percy, right? And you see that you're getting your money's worth, and at the end of the day, you're net positive on that investment.
Got it. And I think you've just started experiencing this. Like the more your team starts using AI in Percy, you will see those numbers shooting up to like multiple hours in probably a week, in fact, on a daily level as well. And the number of differences, of course, would be like anyways be shooting up. So I think, yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I hope Percy continues to add value with its AI capabilities, and would love to hear more from you as well as from the attendees on chat. What do they feel about AI capabilities of Percy, or any other questions that you might have? I think I'll just take a pause here, and we'll just be interested in knowing if you would want to have BrowserStack Percy's experience demo to you in a customized fashion. So if you would be interested in looking at a demo, feel free to like respond to the survey as yes, and our sales team will start doing the conversation with you, and we'll reach out to you for arranging a quick demo session so that you can know more about how our entire visual testing offerings from BrowserStack. We do it for web, for mobile apps, and as well as for mobile browsers using real devices. So how can it actually impact your quality on a visual testing side? You can get a flavor of that from our sales team. Plus also specifically AI capabilities, if you would want to like know more about it and get a customized demo of how AI is helping reduce noisy diffs and show you more relevant stuff, and also reduce the review time per se for your team, where they were, let's say, earlier spending, let's say, 6 hours for reviewing, let's say, 10 builds, and now they're only spending, let's say, a couple of minutes to review the build because the number of snapshots that have changed have considerably come down, right? So feel free to participate and help us understand your intent, and we'll take you there. I'll just share my screen again. Cool. I think so. We're done with the demo, and now is the time for opening the floor for Q&A. Would love to answer the questions that you might have posted in the chat, or you can post ahead your any new question that you want to answer for us to answer. I see there are two questions, one from Douglas and one from Shubham. They have been answered. We have a question from Ivan. Would love to know more about the compare with Figma function. So Ivan, we do have, thanks for asking the question, Ivan. We do have a capability to compare your Figma design files with your production or staging screenshots in Percy. So what we do essentially is we help you import your screenshots from your Figma design files. You can import as many screenshots as you want from your design files. You can be very selective about certain screenshots that you want to import as well. Let's say, for example, your design file has 20 screenshots or 20 design images, and you want to only import 10 of them. You can handpick and select from a UI experience or a UI dashboard what are those screenshots that you want to import. Once you have imported those screenshots from your design file on Percy, you can map them with any of the existing Percy builds snapshots which already exist with a specific screenshot name, or you might run a fresh comparison build to compare your production or staging screenshots against those imported Figma screenshots, right? So Figma is a Figma comparison is a fairly popular feature that many of our Percy customers use, and would love to also maybe have a customized demo for you, Ivan, if in case you might be interested. Yeah. So Greg has a question on larger applications that use multiple Git repos. Can a build be set up? No, I think so. Thanks for asking the question, Greg. So you can have build or a project in Percy communicate with multiple Git repos. So you can have different branches. Okay, you're asking about multiple Git repos for one build. I think we do integrate multiple branches with a single project. With multiple Git repos and a single build, I'm not sure if the team can help here answer this on in the chat. It'll be helpful. Anubhav, I think, is helping us answer this question. You can definitely compare multiple branches in Percy with a given build. For multiple Git repos, I think I'll let the team answer this so that I'm accurate in my understanding and communication here. Feel free to post more questions, folks. I think Shubham has a question that he posted and it's already answered. I want to start UI testing for one of my application. I've built framework. Yeah, so I think, Shubham, we do have support for Java Selenium in Percy. You can get started by downloading Percy SDK, and you can run your first build. It's a fairly straightforward kind of flow. You can install the Percy SDK. Percy SDK will start capturing screenshots from your local environment, and those we first capture DOM, and that DOM is essentially used to start doing comparison across multiple browsers and resolutions of your choice. And I think I also see that the documentation link has been posted there on the chat. Feel free to go over those documentation steps and help us understand if you face any problem. Douglas had a question on, has a visual testing been included? Yeah, I think we do have dynamic data handling, Douglas. I think team has already answered that. We do have Intelli ignore capability, which helps us handle certain dynamic data elements such as ads, carousels, cookies, and banners out of the box. Plus, there are other dynamic data elements which you can actually control and define whether you are interested in continuing to see them as relevant visual diffs, or you want to completely ignore them through a feature that we call as regions in Percy. So you might have, let's say, on a single web page, you might have 10 dynamic elements, and some of those dynamic elements or HTML DOM classes you might be interested in tracking if they're changing, and some might be just like a layout kind of a dynamic data loading up. So you can completely ignore those through regions capability. And I would request if someone from the team can also post regions in Percy documentation link to help Douglas understand that as well. How Percy reports UI bugs. So Akshay, thanks for asking the question. We do capture your DOM from your environment, and we re-render the DOM in our environment across different browsers and resolutions. And whenever you are running your first Percy build, we consider that as a baseline because there's no earlier source of truth for us to know if that's an accepted UI state or not. So we consider that as a source of truth. And whenever you run subsequent Percy builds, they get compared against your baseline snapshots. And we compare the DOM changes across the two states of the snapshots, and we report any UI bugs by showing you the heat map of what exactly has changed. On top of it, we also have a RCA feature, it's root cause analysis feature, which helps you actually understand what CSS change or HTML class name change or a position change has happened in your incoming snapshot, so that you can report it to your front-end developers that, hey, look, this is the class name change that I'm seeing in this particular div that Percy is showing me, or this is a CSS change, CSS class change that has happened, or this is the position change from the Z index perspective that has actually happened in your screenshot. So I hope that's the answer that you're looking for. If not, please feel free to have a follow-up question. Yeah, I think folks, the floor is open. Feel free to post more questions. Zohar and I would like to address more questions on this session right now. But I'll just take a pause here. Zohar, anything that you want to add so far from the questions that have come from our attendees, from your experience of using Percy with Autodesk?
Yeah, I think for the first one, it's very important to note the feature, the Figma feature, I think is great because it allows you to really see how strong the process in your team is. Meaning you don't have to develop a thing, put a baseline image that you can compare against, but rather if your designer is fully streamlined into the process of the team and has a good clean Figma practice, that the design that's there, that's good. You can use that as your baseline, and then you don't have to go back and forth. Like it could really be pixel perfect. So I really like that, how that emphasizes the clean process in the team.
Yeah, I know as well. We were discussing it the other day as well.
Yeah.
Figma is something that Autodesk also wants to start leveraging in a full scale capacity. And I'm actually intrigued, and also kind of it's more of a starting revelation that a lot of organizations uh, they're concerned about doing a shift left kind of visual testing, right? You do not want those UI bugs to go in production and then you figure out, hey, I could have done a better job during my initial release itself. I could have done an initial audit against my Figma design file and shipped a
Exactly.
better quality of the better first quality of my product, right?
Yeah, that shift left I think is very important because it puts a lot of emphasis on both the product managers and the UX design people to really validate all of their assumptions, validate the flow, validate the functionality before it gets to actually building it to the engineers. Because any change you do at that phase is much more expensive. We see that we're in the construction space, right? Right. It's much easier to change a thing in a building when you're in the design phase of the software, as opposed to after you're in the field and you already put
Yeah,
up a few steel beams and now you have to make a change of 2 feet to the right. That's a lot of money.
right. And on that note, I think Percy is the only tool from this is my understanding, which actually gives you a complete end-to-end UI workflow for Figma comparisons. Right? There are a bunch of command line capabilities that exist out there in the market, but those are like outdated. Those are not very user friendly, do not have a UI driven understanding or workflow of importing my screenshots from Figma and then comparing things in the UI, right? So we have, I think, around 2 quarters back, we revamped our entire Figma comparison capability and launched a full overhaul of Figma comparison. So would request folks to reach out to us in case you'll be interested in knowing how Figma comparison can actually entirely change how you have been doing visual testing and make it more shift left, as Zohar also emphasized. Um, all right, I think we have a question from Bob. Did and all scans are done. I think this is Azor for you. Bob wants to know how is Autodesk. Uh,
So listen, how many? So I'll repeat the question for those who are not in the Q&A. Do you run all scans or a targeted scan when releasing? how many reviews do you end up having to do? So in terms of scan, I assume you asking if we're running the entirety of our testing suite on every release. So the answer is yes. We run the entire testing suite with the exception of visual test in a regular build, not in component libraries, in every PR. And when it comes to a component library, it is in a PR. For the other suites, it is when we merge to master. And again, it's because visual tests are the most expensive. They're the top of your pyramid, right? They're very important, the most expensive in time and the most expensive in money to run. So you want to be smart in how you utilize the resources. We run the entire suite when we release anything in every environment, right? QA, staging, production, and then we go to spread it to different regions around the globe to get the absolute validation. And that to us is what we call release with confidence, right? You want to make sure that you have full confidence when you release it. And then to your question, how many reviews do you end up having to do? Trying to understand your question. Are you asking how many reviews, how many fail tests do we see when we run the suite? I mean, it varies if you have a large release or a small release. But if you're asking how many of those actually fail, I would say you would be surprised to how many small differences you catch, and when you want to make sure that when you release it's perfect. How many pages with differences? Yeah, I would say you're at about 20% of your pages that when you run your suite, you'll see 20, of the ones you changed, right? With the ones you added a feature, you'll see about 20% with some difference.
Thanks, Or. Yeah, I think Bob, I think you've got the answer that you're looking for. If not, feel free to ask a follow-up question. I think we have I think limited time left. So if there are any more questions, feel free to we'll just wait for a minute or two more to answer any more questions that anyone from the list of attendees would have. But I like the intensity of the questions and the kind of questions that we're getting, Zohar,
Yeah.
from ranging from Figma to how we are doing actually visual diffing and what is the extent with which Autodesk is doing visual testing on a day-to-day basis. Something that I also asked you during the Q&A. During the webinar, like how frequently do you do that? And what I'm hearing from you is you're doing it almost multiple times in a day. Because
Yes.
you are just shipping things at a breakneck speed, and you want an automation job or an automated tool to take care of your visual qualities and not be left with surprises when things hit production.
Yeah, you definitely want to not really reduce but eliminate any surprises when you're at production, because you're dealing yeah, for us to deal with production systems that have real world implications. If you have a certain app that's more for fun, it's one thing, but when you have an app that's used for work, if something goes down, that means that people are stuck in a job site and can't work, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars in a job site that are just wasted. So that's very important. And I think maybe to touch kind of to connect the two dots, when we talked about Figma and I mentioned how good it is or how good of an indication it is for the process, you really want to work in a well-oiled machine when you have an engineering team, because it's more fun to work like that. Everybody knows exactly what they need to do. Nobody's running around with their hair on fire. They know what they need to do. They know where they need to do it, and that really creates a much more productive environment. And to connect it to what Bob was asking on how many pages, so I think it's also very good if you don't work with the Figma and you just have the baseline of what is the last snapshot you took, right? That is the correct one. You want to see the difference of the feature that you change if you made a change. So that also shows you the visual test can also show you the actual validation of what is it that you want to see different, not just that the difference is a problem, but sometimes the difference is what you want, and then you approve it as your new baseline. So the pages with difference kind of varies between, did I change something visual that I actually want to change, or did I change something that's supposed to be functional and it accidentally changed something visual? So that could be also a difference.
Makes sense, Azor. Thank you for explaining it more. I think, folks, we have come to the end of the Q&A session. In case you have more questions, feel free to post it on the chat, and our team will respond to those questions through an email and we'll make sure that we'll reach out to you and answer your query. I think that brings me to the end of the session today. Thank you so much, Zohar, for taking out time and for sharing your experience of doing visual testing at Autodesk, and then sharing your words of wisdom with us and with all the attendees today. Thank you so much, Zohar. Anything that you want to add here?
No, it's great to be here with you guys. Thank you. And
Cool.
hopefully it helped some folks.
I hope the same. And thank you all the attendees who have joined us from different parts of the world for joining the session. The recording of this session will be made available to you over email. And we'll see you on the other side of the next event that BrowserStack is going to conduct. So good luck. Take care.